So part of the DeFi craze um, is driven by yield farming. And yield farming is nothing more than a form of staking in a sense, where you're effectively lending crypto, often in the form of stable coins, to platforms who in turn lend the money, or the crypto rather, out. And the question becomes, what are the legal implications for the yield farmers? And I think this one's pretty clear. I think when you look at it, they're selling a security, right? The yield farmers are. And in light of the Ripple case, which, as I've discussed in the past, I think Ripple's a coin, right? I don't think you can make the argument that it's not, but the SEC has said that it is in fact a security, right? Part and parcel because Ripple is used in a commercial context, or attempted to be used in a commercial context for sale, right? The underlying blockchain technology. And I think in that environment, or in this environment rather, yield farmers bear some risk, because even though we're talking about decentralized organizations, right, you are entering into an agreement, however unwritten, with a participant pursuant to which you have a common endeavor, and the purpose of which is to obtain profit, which closely mirrors the definition of a security under the Howey test. And I think yield farming at its core is, to a degree, a secure high yield investment program, right? Non-scammy high yield investment program, most often run by very smart, reputable individuals. But doesn't take away from the fact that you're effectively investing into something. And people will say, well, there's no structure. And I've talked about the structure for DeFi in the past. Like, do you have one or not have one? And it doesn't matter, because you can create general partnerships through the shake of a hand, right? And so I think these yield farmers are effectively creating a series of general partnerships, right? And selling these partnership units in a sense that the goal, obviously, is profit, right? Common endeavor for the purpose of profit. And so I look at it and I say, in this environment, that's a security. And the question becomes, what do you trigger? Well, you trigger the Securities Act, and you trigger Regulation D, because it's a private offering of securities. And the question becomes, who's investing, right? Because with Regulation D, like a 506C, you're talking about accredited investors only, right? And if you want to generally solicit, which yield farmers effectively are, you are limited to accredited investors, and you have a burden of delivering certain information in the form of a prospectus normally, and you have a burden of verifying, to some degree, the accredited status of your investors. Not to mention the whole AML KYC thing, which we won't even get into, but you need to know who you're dealing with, right? At least from a financial standpoint. And by and large, I don't know any yield farmers that are in fact doing that. So the question becomes, what do you do? And I think, the technically correct way to pursue yield farming from a promoter standpoint is to have a prospectus, to follow the elements of Rule 506C and Rule 501. Unfortunately, because again, I think it shows great promise, and obviously the returns are fantastic. That's why people are flocking to it. But it goes back to the whole thing, well, just because it's a new technology doesn't mean existing law doesn't apply, right? Just because it's new and above the head of the people who wrote the laws back in 1933, does it not apply? It applies. I think it applies. So that's my take on yield farming. Great thing. I'm in it myself. But from the perspective of the farmer, I think you're looking at a securities offering, the type of which requires an exemption from registration, which is in America found under Regulation D 506 or 504. But that's the trick, right? Because what you're doing is selling a unit or an interest, right? You can call it anything you want, but it ultimately is a security because there's a common endeavor with a profit motive, right? So happy to discuss in further detail, happy to sort of elaborate and postulate on this topic. Hit me up, Adam, at adamtracy, Tracy.io, and I'll talk to you soon.